Mock and Teote, and we were talking about diversity and ethnicity. Last week, we talked a lot about social activism and social change. And this week, we're on to health and well-being. And it's, we've got two great speakers, one from Sydney and the other from Hong Kong. Andrew, I've known for nearly 16 years, something like that.
No, 10 years.
10 years.
10
no, surely
years.
it's longer than that.
It
No,
sounds
we met
longer
in
than
2008.
Yeah, something like
and
that.
Kim, I've met on email over the last few weeks. So we're going to first hear from Andrew and then from Kim, and then we'll move into a little bit more of a conversation. Don't forget, you can use the chat if you want to share things or to talk about stuff. So Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit before I show your PowerPoint? You want to say something first?
Well, actually, you can just show my PowerPoint. Yeah. Okay, I'll say something first. Well, thanks very much, Pete, for introducing me and inviting me to the presentation. And I must say thank you to Pete because he is my teacher in community music. Without him, I think my life would be very, very different. Yeah, I would still be working as a psychologist, but in the past 10 years, I have added music into my work, and it has been life transforming to me and some of my clients. So I want to acknowledge this to Pete first. Thanks very much. And of course, I have to thank Mock Chiu Yu, yeah, who is the leader of CCCD. He is really remarkable. He has been bringing different kinds of arts to Hong Kong, lots of arts therapy, bringing community music, theater work and everything. So he has also transformed many people's life. So I hope you guys have a chance to talk to Mock, from the leader from CCCD. Okay, so yes, I actually in Hong Kong, I work for an organization specializing in providing service to offenders and people with mental health problems. And actually, today I will talk about some of the work that I've been doing for the mental health service at my work. And 7 years ago, by the work, the mental health centers in my agency, they didn't have music at all. And within the past 7 years, I have tried to bring music into the center, and now they embrace it. In fact, they have applied quite a few fundings to fully support the usage of community music. Okay. So in my 5 minutes, I'll just spend 5 minutes. I'll just briefly talk about what's happened in Hong Kong, and yeah, one particular story about community music. So this is Hong Kong. I think most of you have been to Hong Kong, and you know it is very crowded with lots of tall buildings. We all live in tall buildings. We don't have house, and some people, they live on the 99th floor, very, very high buildings. Okay, next slide, please. Next one. Yeah, Pete. Yes, and as many of you know, oh, not the the previous one. Can you show? Yeah, this one. As many of you know, last year we had a big social movement, political issues. I won't say too much about it. You can read it on the news. And from June to December, we had lots of social unrest and lots of fights between the protesters and policemen. Okay, and the next one, next slide. Next slide, please. Yes, so this one, I would like to focus on this particular incident. This is called Yuen Long 721 incident. And this incident took place on the 21st of July last year. It involved a fight between two parties of people with white t-shirts and protesters. Okay. Oh, can you keep the previous slide? Yeah, I just wanted a little bit about it. In this incident, people in white t-shirts, they went into the underground of a station called Yuen Long Station, which is the rural area in Hong Kong, and a lot of people believe that the white shirt people, they are from the pro-China camps, and they start hitting a lot of youth in black, the protesters. So lots of protesters got injured, and the whole incidents were sort of broadcast on live Facebook, and a lot of Hong Kong people, they watch it for a few hours, and a lot of them got really traumatized. Okay, and the next one. Next slide. And just a week later, I have to conduct a community music group. And the group is actually, I conduct the group in a community mental health center near Yuen Long. So the 7 participants, all of them are middle-aged females. They all have a they are all in mental recovery, which suggests they have some kind of, they are recovering from the mental illnesses. And they all live in the Yuen Long district. So so the incidents, the 721 incidents were very close to them. And when they came in, they all looked really sad and anxious. And so in the group, in the very beginning, I just want them to express some of the feelings and experience by using music instruments and let them talk about them. And most of them, they express lots of sadness, a lot of fear, feeling very insecure because all these fights happen in their localities. And they felt really hopeless about the communities, about all the turmoil in Hong Kong. And they also report feeling very anxious and stressful. Okay, next slide. Next slide, yes. Oh, the previous one, please. Yes, okay. And in the spirit of community music, of course, we start writing songs. And so I asked them about, well, maybe we can write a song to express some of your thoughts and your yearnings about what's happening in Hong Kong. And then we wrote a song, and the lyrics were printed on the right, but the meaning in English is now shown on the left. So I'll just read the meaning here. And I think this meaning still resonates now in Hong Kong. So why do people hit one another? Yuen Long is so chaotic. Hong Kongers don't hit Hong Kongers. We are from the same family. I wish peace will come soon and we can stop fighting one another. Yeah, so we wrote the song and we sang it several times and then we recorded. Okay, next slide. And I think this is the power of community music in terms of enhancing one's mental health. After they sing the song, recorded, their feelings about things start to change. They report they feel more calm, more hopeful, less confused, and more in control. Yeah, after they have put their thoughts and their feelings into the song and share it together and sing it with one another. Yeah. So, and then of course, after we record the song, we can also share out the song through WhatsApp. They can share the song to their friends. Yeah, because everyone in Hong Kong now, they've got mobile phone which can play songs. Okay, next slide. So when we talk about community music, today's theme is about mental recovery or mental health. And in my understanding, mental recovery is about discovering one's strength and leading a meaningful and hopeful life. And in my view, there are lots of recovery elements that have connection with community music. For example, community music, it emphasizes social connection. It's emphasized strength-based. We use the strength of the individuals to create songs. And community music can bring a lot of hope to people and a lot of peer support when you sing together, when you perform together. And certainly, I think community music, the whole approach is very empowering. And all these are very important elements in one's recovery in the mental illnesses. Okay, so next one. Yeah, and this is the last slide, because I'm still reflecting on the situation in Hong Kong now. As many of you know, in Hong Kong, since July 2020, this year, we have got the national security law. And now we are very careful about what we speak, because you can be accused and put into jail just by the thing you speak. And just this month, in November, the police has established a hotline. So people can just call the hotline and report on other people. So this is quite threatening. I think to me now, because I haven't conducted community music since the establishment of the new law. So I'm still pondering on what to do in the community music session. What kind of lyrics can we write? What can we say? What can we be included? But then again, I think to me, music is still very important now, because maybe it's safer to sing than speak one's mind. Because I think probably a song will be more accepting than the actual words. Well, I don't know, but I think I can't give you a definite answer about how we can continue to practice community music right now in Hong Kong. And I really look for some of the ideas from you guys. Thanks very much.
Wow, Andrew, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's a very powerful set of stories, very clear, and brings all of those thoughts right to the relevance of what we're talking about. Wow. Okay. Thank you, Kim. I'm going to just move straight on to you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Andrew. That was really amazing. We'll come back to you once Kim's had some time to talk as well. So, do you want to introduce yourself, Kim?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Kim Dilati, and I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist here in Sydney. I was at the Forensic Hospital in Malabar, which is a high secure hospital where they put a lot of inmates with severe mental health issues. I was there for about 4 years, and after completing the program, I've now moved on into private practice. So I'm predominantly working with the same clientele, but in private practice, no longer for a government organisation. So yeah, I'd like to also thank especially Viv for inviting me along to present. It's always really exciting to talk about the work that I've been doing. I never really expected to have as much attention as it has, and it's really like Andrew as well has said, it's very soothing to be working and nurturing to be working with music in clinical practice. I think it's also quite healing for myself, not just for the patients or the clients that I work with. And it's just phenomenal, the experience that we all have really when music's involved in any session. So whilst I'm not a music therapist, I was using music in therapy. So the little presentation that I have is really based on the program that I developed in the Forensic Hospital, and the results from the study which informed a PhD handed in very recently. So yeah, so
I'll share the PowerPoint. There seems to be a slight lag between when you asked me to share it and when it actually happened. So
right, okay. Maybe
go.
I'll slow down. Okay, so that was really, I didn't realize this at the beginning when I started to implement it, but then after doing some of my own research, there was already someone around the world that had come up with the term hip hop therapy. So it's actually quite similar. There's a lot of similarities to Andrew in terms of songwriting, more therapeutic songwriting. So regardless of the type of genre that patients or anybody likes or prefers, this can be used as a methodology for really any genre, whether it's country music or rock or pop. But we focused on hip hop, especially because of the background with a lot of the patients. So I'll just go into maybe the next slide, a little bit about the program. So The title of the research that we did was Hip Hop Therapy, an approach to working with offenders with severe mental health conditions. So this, as I mentioned, was a 4-year study to improve mental health in forensic patients who have generally got quite long-term convictions there, that usually not guilty due to mental illness. There were both juveniles and adults within the hospital who all suffer from exceptionally high rates of mental health compared to the same age period. So it's not just in the forensic hospital, but mainly in custody, where we see very high rates of mental health and trauma as well. Next slide. Yep. One of the reasons which I guess encouraged me to use this was to do with the lack of engagement in working with young people in custody and adults in custody as well. For many different reasons, there's often a lot of difficulties in engagement. And because I'd been working with juvenile justice around 13 years now, what I'd realized was that music was kind of the way in and was the way to help them engage more openly. Also within the research, we found that there was a lack of effective and novel programs in Australia. So things that are actually different to treatment as usual, such as the dialectical behavior therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, and things that, whilst they're evidence-based, don't always engage people very well. And it's not one size shoe fits all. It really depends on each individual when it comes to the therapies chosen. So one of the premises was that treatment is as successful as the individual motivated to engage. And so I found a real need to just create something a little bit more innovative, especially with youth, and who have quite different learning styles. And so hip hop therapy was considered an alternative treatment approach. Next slide. So hip hop and rap is one of the most popular forms of music and subcultures amongst youth, especially in custody. A lot of young people and a lot of inmates really enjoy hip hop. And there's a lot of reasons, especially to do with the lyrics, the artists' lives and their backgrounds. There's a lot of parallels, a lot of themes about marginalization, oppression, and adversity, which they all resonate with. And it's also, there is some research about the therapeutic use of rap music for these types of disadvantaged populations. So it was quite relevant. And as soon as you really raise like the idea of rap music with young people in custody, doesn't matter what song it is, they're all switched on. They all, love the music. So it was a good, style of music to use, a good genre. So the study was to really look at whether the use of rap music, as well as the therapeutic songwriting, so that can either be rapping or writing songs in general, is an effective way to engage in therapy and allow the young person or the adult to express their vulnerability in what's known to be quite a hypermasculine culture. It was a 12-week program, Rhythm and Rhymes adolescent program, and it ran consecutively for 4 years. So every 12 weeks would have a group of individual juvenile offenders or the adults that were aged from 14 to 65. So they were always separated. 100% of them had severe mental health conditions, talking about schizophrenia, psychosis, suicidality, and all the negative and positive symptoms that come with it. So I had a real diverse mix within each group. We used songwriting, rapping, and interviews. And some of the patients were also unable to read and write, which was not as much of as a challenge as we actually thought, because they memorized a lot of the lyrics and just played along to or rapped along to the beats. So there was many different points of assessment, because I really wanted to, not only is this population very difficult to assess, to get the ethics approved, etc., but I wanted to really just assess as much as I could. So after the 4 years, put all the results together and found that hip hop therapy, so using lyrics to express their emotions according to different themes per week, there was a significant reduction in in their psychiatric symptoms over the 12 weeks, in depression, reduction in anxiety, reduction in hopelessness, feelings of hopelessness. And there was some improvement with positive coping skills in the juveniles or the young people only, not in so much the adults. And hopelessness I've put there twice, which was a surprise because a lot of the adults actually mentioned how much they use the lyrics to help, and the writing and songwriting to help them cope whilst they're in custody, because they were there often the longest, for several years at a time. And there was a thematic analysis as well of the lyrics and the interviews, and there were 4 main themes that we found, which was kind of similar to Andrew's, which was really surprising. So they found that they were able to cope better with adversity. There was a sense of loss in the lyrics, hopelessness, and self-development. And in the interviews, they all pretty much said the same thing here, which was that they felt that they had higher self-efficacy. They felt really empowered. They felt it was therapeutic, and that there was a connection and collaboration with others, but that there was a lack of resources, mainly due to staff and unavailability, and also actual facilities to use, which is expected in most government departments anyway. But 100% of them said that they'd love to complete the group again. We had voluntary attendance of over 95%, hardly any dropouts, which was great. And they all gained confidence to perform and to write, even if they had never done that before. And generally the feedback was quite positive. It was effective, and they enjoyed the experience and really wanted to keep re-enrolling, and hopefully that this is a method which is transferable to other at-risk youth or other disadvantaged populations around the world, because it's about what works. So yeah, so that was the experience we had, and it's really great to see the power of music.
Fantastic! Wow, what extraordinary parallels from such different such different worlds. How fascinating! Thank you very much, Kim. That's really great. So, Andrew, have you got anything immediately to respond to, or I've got some questions, but do you want to just respond to any thoughts that brings up for you?
Well, I think personally, I don't really know anything about hip hop music, but I'm just curious. So, Kim, you are the leader for the program. You lead the hip hop writing sessions.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah. So I developed it and wrote it, and really, it's just out of I used to like 90s hip hop when I was a teenager, and knowing that it was going to be effective, I researched it and found ways to do it. And I've got a bit of a music background, but it wasn't, I'm not immersed into so much like the hip hop culture. I'm aware of it, but it was kind of, anyone can do this. You don't need to have an interest in hip hop, in rap. It's really about the therapeutic songwriting component, and that can be done, as you know, with any genres whatsoever. And we had some older gentlemen in the group who were not interested in rap, really despised it, but they loved coming to write, and they'd play their tunes with their guitar, and so it's diverse. Even though it's hip hop therapy, it's really more about the songwriting.
That's great.
And I mean, one of the things that interests me about this kind of work from talking to psychologists is how you measure. We in the community music world, the outcomes you're talking about are very familiar. Where you found those parallels between the two projects. But are the clinical ways that you're measuring some of those outcomes, or do you feel a need to do that? Either one of you.
Well, I think in my agency, fortunately, they don't ask me to. They are not really concerned too much about psychological measurement, so I don't have to fill in a lot of questionnaires, ask the clients to fill in questionnaires. So it's more about the direct observation of the clients. when you see their mood change and the behavioral signs change, they became more active and more talkative. That's a success of the improvement. So in my agency, it's more direct and down to earth.
Yeah, I wanted to use as many evidence-based psychological tools because I'm also just reading here one of the comments. There's generally less acceptance of rap, hip hop by Bernard. I couldn't agree more. And I think that when I started to implement this program, there was a lot of, criticism in terms of the stigma. But like heavy metal music or rock or anything that we hear on TikTok, and there's genres, there's, I guess, negative music, if you want to call it that, in every single genre. And we focused more on the positive rap and pro-social themes as much as we could. But for that reason, I wanted to use as many evidence-based tools to measure this, to make it an evidence-based program. And so there was a lot of emphasis on that. And for that reason, I used probably about 6 or 7 measures to collect the data. And it was really onerous for everyone to complete them, especially with those that were quite illiterate. But I just thought, you get one chance at this. I'm not going to be able to do it again. And yeah, but everyone, each to their own, I think.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. I mean, so in some situations we need to get that evidence to get more funding. So, there's a whole sort of trap that we have in this kind of work in terms of finding the right kind of evidence that enables us to unlock the next bout of funding for the next project. But when you're working with a part, for Andrew, you're working within your organization,
agency,
so it's within your agency, so it's a very different sort of situation in a way. They see the results.
Yeah,
and
they see the
funding you
results.
to do that.
The workers and the managers, they know the clients, and they know, in the past they were very inactive, they look sad, but now they look very cheerful. So that kind of evidence is very strong. Yeah.
And that's enough for them.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, that's so. Yeah. No, but it's really interesting. And for both of you, the word writing is the key aspect. So in either situation, is the musical creativity as well as lyrical creativity?
Yeah, I think Pete, when you're working with patients in mental health or vulnerable people, this idea of empowerment is so important. We need to feel it no matter what our background is every day. We need to feel like we're doing something that empowers us. And for a lot of the patients who are experiencing any kind of mental health problems, I know they don't feel like they have a voice often. And so for them to be able to express themselves in a very non-threatening way, is really empowering for them. And a lot of the feedback I received was that this gave them a voice, no matter what they were talking about. It was a safe space to do it, just like art therapy, where you would come towards, I guess, achieve a final painting or whatever that project is. It's a form of expression. This was exactly the same way, but unfortunately it still got critiqued no matter what they wrote within the setting that I was working within at the time.
And in my case, I think words and music are equally important. I don't, because after all, we have to compose a song which have to be recorded and to perform. I really treasure about performances. So my community music group, we do performances, and I think the ladies I work with, they like the words, and they also like to sing in tunes. So I think both are very important in my group.
Interesting. I've got more questions. So as we're doing this, if people have got questions, please put them in the chat, or you could put Graham. Yes, go on. Yes.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you. So thank you to both of you for those fantastic presentations. But Kim, I was just wondering, the question of hip hop, how acceptable it is, how accessible it is, And also the comment you made about, this is paraphrasing, but anyone can do it. Like you're not necessarily immersed in the culture, so it wasn't so much a matter of that this is your cultural preference or whatever, so therefore you were doing hip hop. I'm wondering if, not just with that cohort, if there's a sense that hip hop can be felt as more accessible for free expression, particularly when maybe the words, the text, the expression through words may be the more sort of prominent or prevalent agenda. Do you think that is the case?
Sorry, Graham, you're cutting out a bit
Pity.
towards the end. So I'll try to answer that based on what I heard. So just look, I think if we focus on hip hop, it's this idea of that it allows people to be vulnerable. It allows its listeners and the people who are writing the lyrics and the rappers to be vulnerable in a hyper masculine culture. That was the theme, and that's, I think, more relevant towards the type of population that I was specifically dealing with. So the offenders who, have got issues around aggression and definitely being self-aware and, those types of things. But if we talk about the genre itself, the Beatles have got some great lyrics, and they, in the 60s caused some, commotion with some of the things they were saying. We look back to all the rock groups back then. There's controversy across all genres depending on the songs. I think with hip hop in particular, they, from my understanding, we talk about like the 90s era and how they were really, I guess back to the 70s when it was, them trying to just obtain equal rights around voting, which is parallel to the Aboriginals in Australia, which, around the 60s they were able to vote. So there's very strong themes of the oppression and that feeling of feeling disempowered and marginalized, which really resonates more with, I would say, the rap and hip hop culture, and therefore that is more relevant to a lot of the people that I'd worked with, a lot of the patients, the young offenders in custody. I think if I was to do this type of work with another genre, I would find very similar themes, but whether that would be as interesting and relevant, I guess, more interesting, I think, to the population I chose, that's where it kind of lies. I hope I've answered your question and heard you correctly. Okay.
Yeah. And so styles of music are really interesting, aren't they? So the style, how would you define your style, the style of music you sing with your elders, Andrew, in a similar way?
Oh, the style. I think my style is really the traditional Cantonese music, the traditional Chinese pop song. That's my style. Yeah, but I think I do agree with what Kim just said. It's really start with the client's interest. If they prefer hip hop, then start with hip hop. If they prefer, if they like classical music, then start with opera. But my female ladies, they are more into the popular Chinese pop songs.
Yeah.
And I also
Any
want
more?
to. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, go on, Andrew.
I'm just reading in the chat room. I think Mark, he mentioned about combining dance and music together, and I think it is very good ideas. In fact, in my community music group, a lot of the ladies, they love dancing too. So sometimes when we perform, we do combine the two things together: sing songs and dance.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, hip hop isn't just about the music. It is about all of it's about graffiti. It's about dance. It's about, well, Viv knows more about it than me, but it's not just a musical thing. So, and that combined cultural interaction gives people more opportunities to get involved, doesn't it? So somebody who doesn't like doing words might do some art. Somebody who doesn't like dancing might do some words and all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
So people find their ways in.
Yeah, and I think, Pete, it's just a vehicle for emotional expression. And, with the right approach with any patient or client, or in a community group, you have to find what's relevant to them. And so because often when I present this, people are like, oh, hip hop, I'm not interested. It's, you know, it's not going to work for me. But it was just, as I mentioned, it was relevant for these guys. But as long as they can be provided with a more relevant vehicle of expression, whatever that is for the patient, for the group, and you work with that, we just want to get what's in here out, and whatever way that can happen, that's going to be effective.
Brilliant. Yeah. We've got Phil Mullen here who's got a question for you, Kim.
Hi, Kim. I wanted to ask you, you have a number of different outcomes there with the group that are really interesting and stunning, actually. We've had a lot of difficulty in the UK. Again, it goes back to the evidencing thing to an extent with attribution. You know, somebody will have a change, a lifestyle change, or something will improve, or whatever. But how do we know that that is linked to the musical activity? Has that come up in your work, and have you found a way to clarify the attribution of the positive change to the community music experience? Yeah.
That's a really good question. I hope that I thought of everything when I was studying for this group. That's one of the reasons that I chose mixed methods, because questionnaires and those types of things can only get you too far. The interviews, for me, I was very specific about the questions I asked, and I knew that I would really just have probably a lot of criticism or confounding variables, because the guys were on medication. They were also involved in other programs at the same time. So I'm not claiming that this is the be all end all for them, but through the interviews, they were very specific, and I interviewed everybody at the end of the 12-week program. I also received a lot of feedback in the middle of the group. So after each session, I would have many patients come and talk to me about, you know, how they were feeling and in the group. But at the end of it, the majority of them said, and I've got them, the results are going to be published soon. A majority of them said that it was the ability to express themselves in lyrics and to be heard and to feel empowered. That's what's changed them and what has made them more pro-social. Some of them wanted to be music producers and rappers, and a lot of them had a lot of great talent too. So look, I'm not going to say you can't do that. They can be whatever they want when they're released, but the fact that they felt that they had a little bit more meaning, something to work towards, I think that can also increase those outcomes and improve the outcomes related to the questionnaires. But I think you always have to look for those, the thematic type, you know, do a thematic or mixed methods, because you're only going to get so far with questionnaires. And I predicted that would happen with the group. So I wanted other things to measure whether they were, you know, positive outcomes.
Super answer. Thank you so much. Really great. Thank you.
Great. And Mei Fung, you had a question or a comment?
Hi, yes, thank you, Pete. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Andrew, for your wonderful presentations. Actually, when I was doing my PhD, I did something very similar to this as well. I worked with people with Parkinson's disease, as some of you may know, and I measured their psychological well-being as well, and their voice symptoms. But let me start from how do I actually come up with the intervention protocol. So this is very much related to the client's preferred music. So as we understand, actually client's preferred music yield the most therapeutic effect. So if you wanted to achieve therapeutic effect in the end, we wanted to know what type of music is the music that they prefer the most. So I think for Kim's case, hip hop is definitely one of the most powerful for the cohort that you're working with, and that is really brilliant that we see wonderful outcome from your research. From my cohort, because I'm working with older adults, before I run the intervention, I actually done interview with all of them and come up with a list of songs that is their most preferred, and because, you know, as you can imagine, because they're older adults, so we actually found out that the largest percentage of the songs or the music that they prefer is actually the oldies. So I'm actually an opera singer. So I didn't use any of the opera arias, to teach them when I conduct the intervention protocol. But yes, I think that is very important when we go to work with different cohorts. The client preferred music is one of the things that we need to have in mind so that we can yield as much benefits out of the intervention itself. So this is just a little bit comment that I would like to share with all of you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So we've got a moment for each of you to sort of sum up a couple of comments, Andrew and Kim. This has been really great. It's fascinating. Each week we seem to delve into a topic and really get to the bare bones to right into it. It's absolutely fascinating. So if you'd, Andrew, would you like to sort of say a few words to kind of finish our first keynote? Yes. Anything you'd like to say?
I think it's great to see so many of you coming, because in my mind I thought probably I would be happy to see 5 people. So it's much better than what I expect. And I think all of you are music practitioners in your country. So I really hope all of you can continue your good work in music or community music. And I also thank people for some of the comments about my presentation. Some of you suggest me not to use lyrics, just to use music from now on. I don't know. Maybe that's one of the way to go on with the community music work in Hong Kong. But then again, well, I may sound more hopeless than the actual fact. So I hope maybe the situation isn't that bad in Hong Kong. Okay.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you. I think it is pretty hard, but yes. Anyway, yes. Kim. Yeah.
I think I would just encourage everyone to use whatever mode of therapy, especially when it comes to their knowledge of music, because I imagine everyone's got a greater skill set with music than myself, not being a music therapist or a musician. Just to really use this as much as possible. I think, I feel like it's more effective than sometimes what I've been trained in my master's, in terms of working with really difficult clients. And it's a real gift for all the individuals who've got music skill sets to use that. And I really just want to encourage everyone to even think about songwriting or another mode of therapy with their clients, because I really believe in the effectiveness of it.
Fabulous. Amazing. Lovely. Thank you both very, very much. I've now got a lyrical challenge for everybody. Over this we're going to go into breakout rooms. While we go into these breakout rooms and you're listening something or you're listening, can you each write a line for a song, and then we'll put them in the chat when we come back together for the final plenary. And can the line it wants to either rhyme with health, so health is something, health, wealth, stealth, anything, or rhyme with being. So we have a whole load of lines that either rhyme with health or well-being, and then I'll put it together in some sort of song in our final plenary. So think about that line. Don't put it into the chat yet, because I might miss them. Thank you both very much. Thank you. Amazing. It's great to have this knowledge coming to us all. And now we are going to split into our breakout rooms. Sometimes this takes a minute or two. We've got 3. We've got the presentations. We've got a workshop from Charu from Brisbane, and then we got a round table about from early researchers led by Gigi from London and Hong Kong. So Anne and the technical team will now split us in. We'll disappear in some sort of Zoom void and reappear in a minute or 2. So thank you very much again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Okay, I will
Go for
open
it.
the breakout rooms now.
Go for it.
So everyone, if you haven't renamed yourself with the number of the room number, please rename yourself with 1, 2, 3, which room you are going to join. Number 1 is presentation room, number 2 workshop,